There's a new kind of war raging in the world of artificial intelligence. But forget what you think you know. This isn't a battle for faster processors or more powerful chips. No, the ultimate prize, the thing everyone is desperately fighting for, is something way more fundamental: memory. And to show you just how serious this is, let's just start with this quote. This is from Micron, one of the biggest memory makers on the planet, from a recent earnings call. Their most advanced memory is completely sold out. Not for a few months, but through the end of 2026. I mean, it's just gone. You literally can't buy it. We're all seeing the AI revolution happen in real time, right? It is moving at an incredible pace. But this creates a really fascinating puzzle. The component that's holding everything back isn't the fancy AI chips you hear about all the time. Nope, it's the memory that has to feed them. So what is actually going on here? How did plain old memories suddenly become the most valuable and impossible to get resource in all of tech? To really get this, we have to talk about the core engineering problem that's causing this whole mess. It's a concept that engineers have been worried about for decades, but AI, with its insane appetite for data, has just blown the whole thing wide open. It's called the memory wall. Think about it like this. For the longest time, we all figured the hardest part of computing was the actual thinking, the calculations. But for these giant AI models, that's not the case anymore. The real problem, the thing that wastes the most time and burns the most energy, is the data's commute. It's just the act of moving all that information from the memory to the processor and back again. It's become a massive traffic jam. So, to smash through that wall, the industry needed something completely different. A radical solution. And that solution is high bandwidth memory, or HBM. Now, this is not the RAM you'd stick in your gaming PC. This is more like a giant, super-wide data highway built directly onto the same piece of silicon as the processor itself. So how do you build this data superhighway? Well, you don't build out, you build up. HBM is basically a skyscraper for data. You start with this logic base at the bottom. That's kind of the foundation and the brains of the operation. Then you just stack these incredibly thin layers of memory chips, one on top of the other. And you connect them all with thousands of tiny little vertical elevators called through-silicon vias. The end result? It's genius. You get this insane amount of bandwidth, but you use way less power because the data barely has to move an inch. So you've got this game-changing technology, and you have absolutely off-the-charts demand for it. What happens next? Well, you get a brutal, high-stakes war for who gets to control this market. And really, there are only 3 companies in the ring. And here's the scoreboard right now. SK Hynix, out of South Korea, is just dominating. They're holding a massive 62% of the market. They are the undisputed champ. Micron, from the US, has clawed its way into a solid second place. And here's the shocker. Samsung, the company that has been the king of memory for decades, is actually in third. This is the setup for the next big round in this fight. So what's the game plan for the next generation, for HBM4? Well, each company is betting the farm on a totally different strategy. SK Hynix is going vertical, trying to be the first to build a 16-layer memory skyscraper to pack in as much as possible. Samsung's playing the efficiency card. They're aiming for a 40% drop in power use, which for a massive data center is a huge deal. And then you've got Micron, who's just going all in on expansion, dropping an absolutely insane $20 billion to build more factories. So you've got this incredible three-way fight. But there's one player who isn't even in the ring, but they are calling all the shots. One single customer is fueling this entire war. They are the kingmaker. They decide who wins and who loses. And I'm sure you guessed it. That kingmaker is, of course, NVIDIA. Their next big AI platform, codenamed Rubin, is the ultimate prize. NVIDIA is dropping colossal orders on all 3 of these guys. If you get a big slice of that NVIDIA pie, you're set for years. If you don't, well, getting left behind just isn't an option. And if you want to understand just how crazy this demand is, get a load of this number. 288 gigabytes. That's how much of this next-gen HBM4 memory is going into one single NVIDIA Rubin GPU. That is more than 3 times what their top-of-the-line chip had just a couple of years ago. Now imagine that multiplied by millions and millions of chips. Yeah, now you see why it's all sold out. Okay, I know what you're thinking. A corporate war over some data center parts, why should I care? Well, here's the thing. You're actually caught right in the middle of this. This high-tech battle is about to hit you right where you live, in your wallet, and with your hobbies. It all comes down to this. There's only so much raw material, these silicon wafers, to go around to make all kinds of memory. And making this HBM stuff for AI is insanely profitable. So what are the manufacturers doing? They're shifting production. Every single wafer that gets used to build an HBM stack for an AI server is one less wafer available to make the RAM for your new computer, your phone, or your next gaming GPU. It's a zero-sum game. And for anyone in the gaming community, this is where it's really going to hurt. Industry reports are saying that NVIDIA is planning to cut production of its next-gen RTX 50 series gaming cards by as much as 40% in early 2026. And the reason? They simply can't get their hands on enough of the graphics memory they need to actually build the things. So the bottom line is pretty simple. The fallout from this AI memory war is starting to spread. It doesn't matter if you're a gamer, a PC builder, or just someone who needs a new phone. We are all going to feel this. Get ready for tech to get more expensive and a lot harder to find. And look, this isn't just me speculating. Market analysts are already running the numbers. In their worst-case scenario for 2026, they're predicting the whole PC market is going to actually shrink by almost 5%. And at the same time, the average price of a PC is going to jump by 6%. It's simple math. Fewer gadgets, higher prices. That's the direct cost to you and me. But this whole crisis is more than just a temporary shortage. This is a sign of a massive, permanent shift in how we think about computers. We are basically leaving the era where the processor was king and entering a totally new one, the memory-first era. And the road ahead is just, wow. We go from today's HBM3E to HBM4 in 2026. Then, by 2027, the Rubin Ultra platform is targeting 1 terabyte of HBM on a single package. That was just unbelievable. And after that, the whole idea of what a computer even is starts to get weird, with these new things called AI compute cubes. And that's the endgame here. It's kind of mind-bending, actually. This whole trend is literally forcing the processor and the memory, two things that have always been separate parts, to physically melt together. The future isn't a computer with a processor and memory. It's just a single thing, a unified cube of pure computation, where you can't even tell the difference between the two anymore. Which leads us to the final big question. For 50+ years, the blueprint of a computer has been simple. Processor on one side, memory on the other. This war is tearing up that blueprint. So if the two most basic building blocks of a computer just become one single entity, what does a computer even look like a decade from now?